Hi Lynn, Trudy here again. I apologise ahead that my voice is really croaky at the moment. I'm getting over a horrid old chest cold, so I've been trying to put off doing too many voiceovers until I was clear and could be heard. So hopefully I've got my super duper new microphone on and I'm hoping that it will pick up my voice nice and clearly for you. So you've done the film, I've had a look at the video, and yeah, there's lots of little things. I did message you last night, but I appreciate you haven't had a chance to come back to me on that one. But I'll discuss a few of the things that I thought of as I go through the assessment. You filmed the Netflixes in Walk and Trot, and you've got a couple of questions. Of course, I don't mind ever. That's very much the point of all this. So I suggested you didn't ride with the schooling whip, but you're finding him very sluggish in trot and he doesn't really want to go forward, as I can see on the video. Well, actually, I thought you were pushing him forwards at some points. I know there were times, particularly when you came out of the end of the parallel poles and were turning back the other way, that he was, towards the gate, say, that you were having to work a little bit harder. But I think, as with a lot of people, because you've been judged in dressage competitions, you think that trot is bang, 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 bang forwards. And yeah, I can imagine he probably is a bit sluggish without the whip. The reason why I don't like carrying a whip, I'm going to be really honest, and then you can carry one. I don't think any less of people that do. But for me, if a horse goes forward when you carry the whip, there is some association to that whip of fear. There has to be, because the way behaviour works is that you get more of the behaviour you want, i.e. the horse trotting forwards nicely without much effort, because of the thing that you add, i.e. the whip. And if you didn't, then it wouldn't be reinforcing. So the whip is reinforcing him to go forwards because he doesn't want you to use it. And that's cool as long as there's no fear signals, signs outwardly. But with the tension that I've seen in Tenor when he's working, I'm just slightly concerned if you carry the whip, he feels, I have to do this. And then we can miss those signs. And there was just a few little signs in this that I'll talk through as I get to them, but just things that sort of rung warning bells for me a little bit. So he's exhausting to ride at the moment, so would it be kinder to carry the whip? Well, if he's exhausted, if he doesn't want to go forwards, as a behaviourist, forget the trainer side, I think the two are so interlinked it's very difficult not to. But they are such easy creatures, horses. They do things for us. If they're able to, they are fairly willing most of the time, especially the Welshies. So whenever a horse doesn't want to go forwards, my question is always why. And yeah, I get that if you carry the whip, then you don't have to get after him with your leg. But in teaching him the clear cues from leg, I think it makes it a lot nicer than having to carry the whip. That said, as long as you're absolutely certain he isn't in any sort of discomfort or confusion, fear, then, carrying that whip, I'm not going to get cross about it at all. I just always want people to be aware that carrying a whip it's if you don't do this, I will, and that's not likely to be you that's done that, but, it's that backup of the leg with the whip if they don't go forwards. That just makes them more worried about carrying the whip. So yeah, that's your choice, absolutely. The other question is, because he works above the bit, I find it difficult to flex him. Well, one of the questions I asked you, and I'd love to hear back on this one, is does he put himself up there or are you riding him up there? Because I'd love to see this work on a much longer rein and a much lower posture. Something along the lines of the walk on a free rein posture, because he will come up to the bit when he's ready. He's not ready yet. There's nothing in his body that tells me he's able to work on the bit. On the bit is just the end piece of the jigsaw, and we seem to have lost that in current times. Everyone seems to think that you tell the horse when you need to be on the bit. I know you don't, but I think, like everybody, we come from this cultural fog of believing that, other people tell us this is the case. I would work with a young horse for 2 years, low, soft, not asking them to come to the contact. And I've never had a horse not say when they're ready, okay, I could come up. And so you start to work on more collecting exercises like the shoulder in and the counter shoulder in and the travers and shorter steps in trot. And the horse naturally brings themselves up onto the bit. I think it's a bit of a misnomer, that on the bit. I'm not so keen on it as a description of what happens. But yeah, and so his head and neck is quite tense. So I'm going to go through the video and take individual moments to help you, have a look at that. And then I'm hoping maybe that, depending on what you tell me about after this video, that we could film another one quite soon where you let him have the rein and you're not asking him to come up. Because the first thing I look for in the horse is free movement over the back so that they're able to move. They're not constrained by the rein in any way, shape or form, and the rider is just sitting there really doing nothing apart from little moments of flexion. But let's have a look at the video. So I'm going to pause for a second, bring up the video, and then I'll continue. Okay, here we go again, Lynn. Now we have the video. So the beginning part is in walk. Now, one thing I'm going to suggest to you is at the beginning, I'm not sure when this was, if this was right at the beginning of a session or whether you'd had a warm-up first. It's actually a really great exercise to warm up. And if you were using it as a warm-up, I would go to those great big circles right out to the end each time. But once you have warmed up and you're already working, and if you wanted to use this as a little exercise within your work, you could quite easily make this into sort of a weird figure of 8 with a big flat bit through the centre, so that you rode sort of 10-metre circles off the end each time to come back in onto the pole. So it can be a warm-up exercise as here, or it can be used as a more getting the hind leg underneath with the smaller circles. Certainly in walk, obviously in trot, you don't want your circles to be so small. And one thing I noticed straight off here was that was a really active walk, really nice and active, but he looked a little against your hand, so he's a little up in his back, and that's tending to push your upper body back a little bit. Remember, at the beginning, just make sure your weight is evenly between your seat bones and the fork, the pubic arch at the front, so that you're not tipping backwards. And I know you have issues with the saddle, that's not so easy for you. I can see his hind legs even at this distance on the video, that his hind legs are not really flexing as well as I'd like them to, but I think as training goes on, that improves. And they're lovely, super, and I actually like the way you did that. You brought him in, you almost brought his shoulders around rather than turning him round. There are two ways to do the exercise. You can bring the shoulders round in that almost quarter turn on the forehand, as you did there, on the haunches rather, or you can make it into a much more circular shape, the bit that you go off onto after the pose, and so come in on a circular line. But that was really nicely done, great outside shoulder connection there. Now here again, I'd really love to know if this is what he's offering you, because this is quite a fast walk. I'd love this to be slower. And you're going to say, no, if it's slower, he's not going to move, Trudy. What are you talking about? But I want him balanced, and he's unbalanced. He's putting his head up to maintain his balance. So I love the straightness. Look at that. Look at those forefeet and hind feet. You're really getting good at this. So the balance is good. And look at your balance. Your balance is good there as well. I would love you to tell me how it feels in your hand, because what it should feel like is if you ask with your hand, he will look to that side, to the left in this case, but that you can release that after he's looking. And then he might try and ping straight back, in which case you can ask again very lightly. I'm trying to think of in terms of a weight of what that weight would be in the rein, because it's very little. You shouldn't feel too heavy. So if you really can't manage it, just keep asking. You ask him, he releases, and if he feels like he has to ping back straight, then you let him, or he begins to ping back, and you ask again with that soft feeling through the fingers. But absolute bonus here, from the beginning of you walking down these poles that I saw in the previous videos to now, is huge difference, and you're probably too much on top of it to see that. But he did not maintain that straightness, that beautiful straightness before. And that's lovely. So this is a great place to start from. He's straight. You're not asking too much bend, too much flexion rather, and that's good. Now, yeah, and this way he doesn't find it too difficult to regain that right. But again, your reins are really, really short. I want him to have freedom in his head and neck. You shouldn't need to have him up there to maintain the slight connection you need for this. So, maybe another 2 inches through the reins to just let him have that ability to take his head and neck down. Again, a little bit stiff in that turn, and you see how he threw you out? I'm going to bring that back. Can you see how he's thrown you out? You're trying to turn him to the right. I'm wondering if you're using your right leg there, can't quite tell. But can you see how you've completely slipped over to the left? That's not going to help him. So you really need to make sure that you're not slipping your body as you go. Just fingers, just turn him with your fingers. If it takes a massive turn, then that's fine. It doesn't matter, but just little feels with that inside rein. So now you're unbalanced because you're sitting over to the left, and you'll probably notice that then when you go off the other way. And he's resisting against your hands there. So if he's resisting, I have to ask why. Why is he resisting? Because, if you're not asking too much, so give. If you find resistance in the rein, give, because then there's nothing for him to hold against. If a horse will not walk forwards nicely from a light leg aid, you forget about leg to hand. We're nowhere near that yet. We're unpicked right back to the beginning. So really don't worry. Forget this idea of him being on the bit. You do so many great things with him that are partnership building, with interdressage. Forget, if you have to have a year off where you don't really do much dressage, I wouldn't worry. It's much better that you get that suppleness over the back first before you even think about anything to do with connection. So here again, I know I can't see the length of your reins, but I know they're too short because of where your hands are. Just give him, let him move. Give up the control. I know it's tough. Be safe. You can. So here again, I love this, very straight, but he's too fast. This is too fast a walk. It's really, really powering on a little bit, and he's a little bit up in the and heavy in the hand. So again, almost exactly the same thing, but I'm loving the way that he's managing to do that right bend, and I'm loving the way he changes from the left flexion to right bend. That's really super. Again, give him the hand here, let him have his head, because can you see how those little mincy steps he's taken with his forehand, with his front legs? Let's watch those round that corner. It's like he's treading on eggshells or ice, and therefore you get that same thing behind where those hind legs are just not tracking up. Assuming he has nothing wrong over his back or with his hind legs or anything at all, which I'm always very wary as a trainer not to train through. You can't train through those things, so I know you keep your eye on that, but just let him have the freedom in the shoulder to move. They have huge shoulders, these cobs, and they really need the room to move. Nice straight approach again. And again, I can't tell, but I think I need you to allow a little more through that left rein. So that left hand should be right back down, your elbow should be at your side, and that left rein should be pretty long, really not having any great connection. But I'm liking the amount of flexion. And then when you come out, he just falls plonk straight on that left. And look at him, he says, Mum, I just did that. I just did all that flexion. I released over my back. And you said, but stay there, Tenor. Don't let go. Let him have that stretch. It's so important. He will come to the contact when he's ready. That was lovely. And then Lynn said, no, you're coming up here. I'd love to see you working down there. I'd love to see him using his back properly. He's just really tight. And you can see those hind legs now, they're a little bit stiff. But, this is not a bad pace here. I like this. This is a nice level walk. And if you came out on a young horse at the beginning like this, I'd be, high-fiving you and really happy that they had that level of energy in the walk. So again, we're going to come in with the right flexion. Again, I'd like to see you with less in your left hand if necessary. And then when you come to here, okay, so I'm going to talk you through this. The first thing you're going to do in the next stride is take the flexion to the left. So very gradual. It's not a seesaw in the mouth sort of feeling. It's release on the right, ask in the left, could you point your nose to the left? And immediately on top of that, you're going to put your left leg just at the girth. Don't press, don't squeeze, and it might take him some time. And in fact, we might need to put, let me draw this out for you. We might need to put, say, a guide pole, particularly on this side. I think on the other side it's fine. So you might need a guide pole there to help you come out of the poles. I use lots of physical guides for them in the school because you can take them away later, but while they're learning, it's like having the handrail for a child to hold on to, or the stabilizers on the bike. They don't stay on forever. So that's certainly something that I would think about using for him. So it starts with changing the flexion just lightly. Remember, you're not bending, you're not turning. Careful not to turn him onto that left shoulder. And at the same time that you ask the flexion in the left hand, you need to lift that hand a little. Make sure it doesn't drop down low, because then your hand's down there on the left, which takes your weight down onto his left shoulder as well. And then poor old Tenor, not only is he trying to bend and flex to the left, but he's trying to support you as well. So here, the left hand would come up, not open as you just started to open it a little bit. And then once he gets himself out of the poles, that's quite nice bend. Yeah, I'm really, really happy with that, Lynn. And there we went forwards to trot, and you couldn't resist another little nudge. It's heartbreaking, Lynn, when I work with people who are trying to give up using their leg or their whip. You've taught yourself so much over a long period. I've been the same, and you just go in for the leg straight away. So when we go forwards, let's play it while we're talking. When we go forwards to this trot, you ask him here, a little tap, 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 tap. He goes, and then you keep asking. And as hard as it is, sometimes just go large. I'm going to pause you there a second so we don't miss out that next lovely bit. I want you to go large and do walk, trot, walk, trot, walk, trot, walk, trot. Really, really off the leg, 5 or 6 steps of trot, light rein to stop, nice long rein. Don't let him feel that he's being held in. And then again, leg is lightly hanging, it touches his sides. If he doesn't, you ask again, and once he's into trot, make sure that you don't nag with that leg, and we'll train you out of being naggy as well as him, because he'll like it so much better if he understands, if there's some clarity in it. Little bit stiff in that turn again, but don't worry, these things will not change in one day. So I'm guessing that he was flexing left there and that he was struggling with that. The trot is way too fast. So here, that's fine. The trot's fine. But as he comes into here and he's on a straight line, I think I'd slow that down. Use your voice and ask him to steady up, but give with the hands so that he can take his head and neck down and really stretch over his back properly. Again, too short in the range. There's a little gap appearing there, which was great. And I love this trot. And I can't see you nagging much at this point. And this is plenty trot for me. Until he's soft over his back, this is the most trot I'd ask him to do. You do a little bit of a lean into these corners. You lean forwards and sort of hope for the best and turn him. So let's go through that one again. So there is lovely. Little tweaks with the right rein, little tweaks, but you're starting to sort of crouch forwards. Try and lift up and keep your shoulders open. But honestly, then, that was a really nice corner. So again, I'm assuming flexion to, oh no, sorry, I'm going to have to go back and look at that because I assumed you were flexing him to the other way. So you're actually flexing him right on this one. And I can see how hard he's finding that. So here we're flexing right. Yeah, there is. That, and I would start with that. Don't worry that you don't get much. Again, it's a little fast. Why do horses go fast? Because they're trying to avoid doing something. So if he runs on a little bit, he doesn't have to, release in his neck. And if they find something difficult, they will just rush to get through it as quickly as they can. But there is lovely as you come out of the end. And there, I would love to just see you give the reins and see if he'll take them down just a little bit. There again, as you see him going up that long side, Lynn, he's quite stiff behind. It's regular, it's nice regular rhythm, but he sort of doesn't really soften over his back and allow those legs to come under him. Again, there you do exactly the same on that rein. You get very tentative when you're worrying about getting to the poles and turning him. Try and stay up and soft and open in your shoulders and just go with the flow in the rising of the trot. Keep it steady. Slow him to almost walking if it's too difficult to turn him in. Okay, so this time I can really see some left flexion. Really see it. That's excellent. Good. Again, too much in the hand. And I know that one is, you're working hard there. I see that. And I take your point completely. But for me, I think at that point, he's just worked really hard. He's tried that left flexion. He's tried to release his neck all the way down the poles. He gets to the end and then he's got this is a difficult exercise. I didn't give you a straightforward exercise because it gives you lots of chance to bend and flex. But there at the end, as you came out, he was, it was quite hard for him to go from left flexion to bending right and turning right. And just let him take his pace, you know, even if he had to walk at that moment and you picked up trot again when you get back to the fence. Again, here he's a bit above the bit. I know you know this, and I'm describing it in terms that you understand. But by the time you got to the corner, he's balanced himself again. But I'd love to see just a little more length in the reins so that he really can get himself a lot softer. Here again, we're going for left flexion. Don't worry. Yeah, and I can see he knows when he comes out, he's going to have to. So the reason he's going so slowly and it's such hard work for you is this is tough for him. It's really hard for him. So I would, you know, if he finds it hard, say, okay, tenor, we'll walk for a bit and then we'll have another one. Maybe you could do quite a bit of walk and then do one pass in trot and then bit of walk and then one pass in trot the other way. Just mix it all up for him. People seem to think that schooling is not difficult, but you know, just these little tweaks. Again, I'm liking that long side, a little bit pokey there, but you didn't tip quite so forward on that one. Here we're going right. And you see the difference, Lynn? On those first few, I couldn't even tell which way you were flexing until I saw which way you turned at the end. Now it's ultra clear which way you're flexing. You know, in one short video, in a couple of minutes, you have made a huge difference. I think, oh, yes, I want to cry at that one. Did you see the way he gave to you at the end as he came out of that and softened over his back? Now, I'm going to have my fingers crossed that Lynn then didn't say to him, but come on, up you come. Yeah, so you didn't do too badly there, Lynn. Well done. But I'd love you at the end there when he's done that turn and you know he's going to come out and go the right way. Give him the hand and let him have a real stretch down, if he will. I'm not sure whether he will yet. But I'd love to see if we could. And here, this trot is the right pace, Lynn. Now we've got a trot. This is lovely. Oh, look at that. I could cry. That is the nicest piece of work I've ever seen you do. The bit coming out at the end of the last parallel poles and then turning and going up to the top there is the closest I've seen tenor looking like he's going to work correctly. Then it's hard again, yes. Allow through the reins, and I know when he comes out of the end, but again you see, look, he went stretchy and down, and oh, I'm absolutely thrilled, Lynn, and I'm really sorry that you're not seeing the brilliance in that, but I think you will come to. Now, all I would say is when he comes out of the end there and he's struggling, you know he's struggling. If you carry the whip, will you know he's struggling? Will he just do it because he knows that the whip's there? So this is all just feedback for me. All behaviour that comes from an animal, us or them, is just feedback. It's just telling you what's happening in that moment of time. And, you know, I'm just super, super pleased. I want to go back and see if I can find that bit again. That just I get so excited. And then he swaps onto what he can't do. Look at that. Just look at that. This is where tenor should be trotting at this point. He shouldn't be up. He shouldn't be nose on his chest. stop watching any serious dressage, because honestly it's such a screwed up place at the moment, all these horses with their chins on their chests. This is how a cob should work at tenors level. So when we get him going all the way around the arena like this on a nice light soft contact on the rein, then he'll go forwards off your leg much better. So sorry, I get very excited when things start to come together, and then it's hard for him. But there, that's lovely. Yeah, I mean, not quite as low as that. I know that he's putting himself there because that is a bit more comfortable. But, you know, I'd love to see lots of swapping between that longer posture and the shorter posture. Lots of transition. So for the next one, I want to do more. I want you to maybe not film the early ones, because I know they're not going to be as good. It's part of a process. This is hard work for him. So 5-minute bursts like this, and then plenty of walk on the long rein, and then bring him back. Start on the long rein coming down the parallel poles, and start to film at that point. So I get to see maybe the second bit of you going down the poles, where he's already warmed up a little bit, and add in the trot, and if you need to add in that placement pole. But actually, as I saw when he went forwards to trot, there was some real joy. And this where I'm stopped here, I would, apart from that I've caught it at the wrong angle with that one foreleg, you can't quite tell what it's doing, it's in movement. But this Lynn, this is perfect. This little picture here is how any horse at this point in their training should look, be able to stretch down into that position. So all is not lost. Your choice about the whip, I promise you, I will not get after you about it. If you feel it works better for you, think it through. Think how you would feel if you were the horse and what the whip might mean to you. And if you're cool to go with it, then I am too. Okay, so I'm going to upload that now, but really, I'm super pleased.